But in the face of this, some still question the official account. They believe that United 93 landed somewhere else entirely and the passengers were abducted.
We have reached the point of knowing the government's official account about 93 is a false account. Being able to explain exactly what happened, however, as an alternative is a challenging task we've not completed.
So where would those passengers be now from United 93?
Oh, I wish I could tell you. That's one of the most intriguing questions that remain.
Dillion Avery believes he's found the answer to that question, and it points to a government plot.
So if Flight 93 didn't go down in Shanksville, then where? You ready for this? Cleveland. At 11:43 on September 11th, WCPO, a local TV station in Cincinnati, Ohio, reported that 2 planes landed at Cleveland Hopkins Airport due to a bomb threat. United Airlines identified one of the planes as Flight 93.
It's true that a passenger jet was diverted to Cleveland, Ohio that morning after reports of a bomb on board. But it wasn't United 93. It was a Delta Airlines flight, and this woman was on it. Delta 89 took off from Boston, the same airport from where 2 other jets were hijacked. It was also bound for California, on the same air corridor as United 93. When that plane was hijacked and deviated from its flight path, in the confusion, air traffic controllers thought they were dealing with Delta 89.
Okay, 89, that's a hijack. They think it's a hijack. South of Cleveland, we have a code on it now. Good, pick it up, find it. 89, Boeing 767. Fuck, another one.
Suddenly, the captain came on and announced that, ladies and gentlemen, I regret to tell you that we're going to have to make an emergency landing in Cleveland.
Thinking it had been hijacked, air traffic control ordered the Delta to land immediately.
And the mayor of Cleveland, at the very time we were all waiting there, was holding a press conference to say that we were out there and we were hijacked and they might blow up our plane.
At this moment, we have a Boeing 767 in a secure area of Hopkins International Airport. The initial reports was that this plane was hijacked and that there was a bomb on it.
It was soon realized that the Delta plane was in the clear, and local TV rapidly corrected their earlier misleading reports.
We do now know, Jack, that plane was not hijacked. It was diverted here. And they said
but the original inaccurate news reports have continued to echo around the conspiracy world's chat rooms and websites ever since.
It's very clear what the facts were that day. I know, I was on that flight. This is my very boarding pass.
Why do you think people keep believing these things?
You know, I think that when there's something as nefarious as happened that day, it's hard for people to accept a simple or even a more elaborate explanation. There has to be something more than that. I mean, it's hard for people to believe that something this well done, frankly, could be just the product of a few Al-Qaeda members. I think they just find that they have to have some other explanation. And then, I mean, it becomes whisper down the alley. That's what we say, where one person will say one thing and then it gets repeated and then it gets distorted and then the distortion gets repeated and it just goes on and on and on.
There's one conspiracy theory which quickly spread right round the world. It's the claim that on the morning of the attacks, 4,000 Jews stayed away from work at the World Trade Center. The suggestion is that the hijackings were either a Jewish plot to discredit the Arab world, or that the Israeli intelligence agency, Mossad, found out about Al-Qaeda's plan and tipped off the Jewish community in New York. Cheryl Shames has good reason to know what happened. Her brother, Andrew Zucker, worked as a lawyer at the World Trade Center.
Andrew is larger than life. That's how I like to describe him. If he walked into a room of people, even if he was there maybe a minute, 2 minutes, you wouldn't forget him. It was just his presence was everywhere. He embraced Judaism, he embraced our religion, and he just loved it. He embraced it.
And on the morning of the 11th of September, he went to work as usual in the South Tower. So how did the rumor about Jews staying away that day come about? Just hours after the attacks, the Jerusalem Post newspaper reported that about 4,000 Israelis were believed to have been living or working in New York and Washington. Crucially, it didn't say they were dead or missing, just people who might have been in the vicinity of the attacks. Within days, the story had been picked up in Beirut by a satellite TV network, which is the mouthpiece for the Islamic militant group Hezbollah. Al-Manar TV put a spin on the story, reporting that 4,000 Israelis employed at the World Trade Center were absent from work that day. The story quickly spread across the Middle East and beyond, through news reports, word of mouth, and anti-Semitic websites. As it spread around the world, the conspiracy was elaborated further. The 4,000 Israelis became 4,000 Jews, who had been tipped off by Mossad. When the North Tower was hit, Andrew Zucker was in his office in the South Tower. And when they started to evacuate that building, he put others first.
Andrew stayed behind to help other people evacuate. That's what we know. He said, I'm going to do one more sweep of the office, and I'll meet you down. So when the second plane hit, and my brother had to be pretty much at impact. Plenty of Jews were killed that day, and my brother was one of them. When I hear these conspiracy theories, it hurts me a lot. In general, people need a scapegoat. They need to say, this is why it happened. So I think that's why people come up with these crazy theories. People like to have someone to blame.
No one knows for certain how many Jews were killed at the World Trade Center. But our research confirms at least 119, with a further 72 victims likely to be Jewish. A total of around 200, in line with the 9% of New York's commuting population which is Jewish.